Hey everyone, welcome to Wicker Biscuit.
This is our first episode, and as you will hear, it's a little rough.
Please forgive us, as we were podcast virgins.
And we were pretty tentative because we were all kind of scared.
You will hear things like my dog in the background and even my son joining in on the fun. Please look past that and enjoy the podcast.
Welcome to the first episode of Wicker Biscuit.
Yeah.
Welcome. So hello everyone. How's it going?
Hello.
Great.
Great. Fantastic.
I'm really glad we decided on that name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah, it's so there's so many connections with me and Courtney to Wicker because Courtney and I both love Golden Girls and enough Wicca. I mean, but her dad has a whole furniture set of Wicker and he will never get rid of it. He loves it.
It literally almost killed me because I was allergic to the cushions.
That's true.
I said, so you're getting rid of the wicker? Absolutely not. I just restuffed the cushions.
Yeah. A little girl's gonna die. I want this Wicker.
Priorities. So where does the biscuit part come from?
It actually comes from you, sort of.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. Well, because I said, we say, what was the first thing we said? It was wicker
Muffin.
Muffin. And then I said, how about wicker biscuit? Because it sounds like whisker biscuit.
Oh.
Yes.
Which is a euphemism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently a part of a bow.
Yes.
Yeah, I did find
Yep.
that.
And who doesn't love biscuits in the morning?
Oh yeah, I love a good biscuit.
I used to make biscuits and gravy at Hardee's. Apparently I was pretty good.
Yes.
There was that one dude who came in who was just like, "You're so good." It was,
Was it?
yeah.
I was thinking it was potato buttons.
Oh, the really tall guy who wore like the cross necklace and had hearing aids. He was shaped like a potato.
Yeah.
He always referred to the hash browns as potato buttons.
That is so cute.
And it was funny because he would always come to Hardee's for breakfast, and I think he always went to McDonald's for other meals because we would see him at McDonald's all the time.
Okay. I get that.
And one time he asked Carl if Carl needed to read the paper. It was very nice.
Which is also true that I need to read pretty much every paper that you put in front of me.
Yeah.
Well, a person who wants to be informed, I can respect the crap out of that.
It's pretty bad, though. I mean, cereal boxes, you can put, like, ingredients in front of me, and I'll read them.
Anything to
Compulsory.
stop listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I should start sending you the copies of Times that I get from my hometown, small town up north. And anyway, it's a paper from my small town, and I think you would enjoy it. The police blotter is top tier.
It's very riveting.
A lot of cows wandering free and
Squirrels actually are the main problem. Squirrels and dogs barking.
Yeah.
Something
Small-town
that you may
problems
not
and
know
math.
about me is that I was a 911 dispatcher, and I covered for a while. So some
Wow.
of that may have came from my ratings.
Wow.
That is excellent.
Uh-huh.
That makes me love you even
Do you
more.
ever dispatch ambulance 210?
I'm sure you do.
Probably.
It's the only ambulance that ever goes to
That's
you do.
legendary.
Ah. Though something kind of quirky about and which is my stomping grounds. They only selectively hire the ambulance certain days of the week. There'd be like a note on the board, be like, we have no coverage for 4 days. It'll be okay.
That's terrifying.
Uh-huh. Same thing with, Be
Mhm.
like, well, not today. Now you wait.
Your medical emergency is just inconvenient. to our
Because
schedule.
Janice is on vacation.
Janice. All right. Anybody else have anything?
Should we do like introductions?
Sure.
You are.
I am Gary.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Carl.
And then we got Mystery J.
Mr.
Hello.
J. Yeah.
And then
I'm Ryan.
I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Cousin Courtney.
Cousin Courtney.
Cousin Courtney.
She's kicking up country, Cousin Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Any other things before we head on to the main?
Well,
Please.
I think I would like to open with jokes. Oh, I'm going to tell a joke.
I would love to
Because
hear it.
and they're like intentionally kind of bad, but I see them online and I go, oh, I need to share that with the group. So, what is the difference between Superman and a tired dog?
What?
Superman wears an entire suit and the tired dog just pants.
That's my kind of joke.
Very good.
It really is.
We've been watching a lot of dad joke shorts lately, and I thought it was going to be one of those, but I'm so glad you said that one.
I'm a big fan of dad jokes, especially if they make my kids cringe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The cringier for my children, the better.
I started a thing. You got to be into Pokemon, which you guys are into Pokemon Go, so
Yeah.
you're a little bit familiar with it. But I specialize in dad jokes based around Pokemon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can I have an example?
I can. So, did you hear about the new rating system that they have for sneezes? Yeah, so they designed this system so doctors can get a better idea of like how vigorous your sneezes are. And the rating scale is 0 being like just nothing, and then 10 would be like the Pikachu.
When I hear Pokemon, I think back to like sometime in the early 2000s, and KFC had some sort of Pokemon promotion. Like if you bought like the kids, whatever, you got like a Pokemon card, and they had like the cartoon Colonel Sanders. And he was like, and you can get a card of Pokemon.
Do you remember when McDonald's had the Pogs?
Yes.
That was awesome. Were they Power Ranger Pogs?
I don't remember. I know most of the Pogs I owned were exclusively Power Rangers because that's pretty much all I wanted.
Right.
I know the Sharper Image? Pro Image at the mall had
Yes.
Power Ranger
was
Pogs, and I would
really
go and
into
pick
Pogs.
out all the Power Ranger ones.
I know we're just getting off topic, but who else was into Pogs?
I don't think I was into them, but
I dabbled.
Yeah.
I definitely, if Ryan looks in my baseball card box, I'm pretty sure he'll find a couple tubes in there. And those are all made by Golden Books and Racine
Cool.
at the time. So I
Wow.
probably just got a lot of them, and I really wasn't into it or anything.
Did you ever?
I never.
No, that was probably a little bit.
Well, my
past your-
kids were into them.
Really?
Really?
Okay, I didn't realize it hung on that
Well,
long.
right, because
They
when we
did.
were into it, like
Surgeon.
around 5th grade,
Right.
and everyone would tell us, no one in middle school is into this. And then when we all got to middle school, like no one who had been into it was into it anymore either. So in my mind, that's the only time anyone cared about it. But that is just my interpretation of history, I guess.
I collected the Beanie Babies from McDonald's. I was
Oh,
big
yeah,
into
the
that.
McDonald's
the little
ones.
mini Beanie Babies. That was my major McDonald's.
Yeah, there's that whole thing where they were going to be worth so much, and now there's just like landfills full of them.
My mom suggests I sell hers sometimes, but she's a smoker, and it's hard to explain to her that it's not going to happen.
Right.
And they've been in the house for 25, 30 years at this point, so that smell is not going away anytime soon.
Completely devalued.
Now we just give them away as bingo prizes at the nursing home.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
Okay, a part of me is though like really excited that like, that's the end of their journey.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to like do something good.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they really have feelings, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll take a quick break.
As of now, we don't have any real sponsors, but we sure hope to someday.
Somehow we gotta pay for this bitch.
So until that day comes, here's a taste of what it would be like.
We made a fake commercial. Please enjoy.
And speaking of which, let's take time to mention the sponsor for today, Merton's Meats, the slaughterhouse that takes meats and meat byproducts as seriously as Mickey Rooney on a hot day in 1939. They carry a fine selection of cuts that will keep you coming back, and the meat sweats are guaranteed. And since everything at Merton's is top shelf, you know the stakes have never been higher. Merton's Meats. Sneak some steak for your grandson.
And we're back. Today's topic that we picked, we're going to talk about things that scared the crap out of us when we were kids, but really, in hindsight, weren't really all that scary. I will say this, we kind of all found that there were certain things that when we really dove into it and we thought about it when we were kids, we look back and we're like, no, that was creepy as hell.
And
So-
still is.
Right.
Indeed.
So there's still plenty of things like that just are creepy. But either way, we're going to allow all of it. So the original topic was things that were, scared you as a kid, but in hindsight weren't really all that scary. But then, it's going to go beyond that. So there will be things in here that'll be scared the crap out of us. And when we look back, creepy as hell. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to start us off with one thing that really scared the crap out of me was like at the end of the show Wheel of Fortune or any other game show, because a lot of them were Merv Griffin produced shows back then.
Sure.
The Merv Griffin logo was a griffin. And I'm going to show you a picture of it right now. But it was just a still shot of it, for like 3 seconds. And I just thought it was...
And at some point it would wink. I remember it winking.
Really?
I don't know if it always did or if it was just a certain episode that I remember.
Like flirtatious or like we share a secret? What kind of wink?
Here you go.
Oh.
It was like the Merv Griffin Enterprises, and it would go wink.
Yeah. But it creeped me
It's
out.
almost like stained glass.
Yeah.
Ironically, great grandma had a picture in her living room that I swear had something like that morphed into it.
I love the idea of her printing out, like,
And
talking
it
to somebody,
scared
"Make
me,
the
though.
Merv Griffin thing. I want that." Scared the crap out of me.
It kind of makes me think of when Ryan talks about the Husky when it was originally painted at North High School here in Eau Claire.
Yeah.
How it had human eyes, like painted.
No.
Or no?
No,
It had-
it had human eyes when we got to high school.
Okay.
They like painted eyes on. Well, they painted it so it looked more like a real husky, but the eyes they gave it were colored like human eyes, and it was just looked like big eye. Like it was shocked when they first went up and up like through when we were kids. It was just a solid white color, but that's what creeped me out about it.
Well, I
the
think
solid white one.
that's what probably creeps me out the most about this image is the
See,
eyeball.
I'm a traditionalist. I like the white husky. I don't know what it was about it. I guess just because it was like that for years, so I liked it because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah, well, right when they painted it, it was kind of a why bother?
Right, and then but afterwards, I actually did like the job that they did too. So
We still call it the snow pig.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
that hurts me.
It's a term of endearment, actually.
That's usually like when
Yeah.
one of us is driving home or driving past. That's how we know. Oh, by the snow pig.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So yeah, if anybody else would want to share one, otherwise, if they don't have
Okay.
one, I can go on to my second one too.
Well, when we were younger and Nick at Night was still kind of a newer network, I would say from like 86 to 89, they didn't have a full slate of programs. I mean, they did most nights, but on Sunday nights, like 9 p.m., it would go to paid programming. And when you're a little kid, and like when I was a kid, it was Nickelodeon 24/7. So Nick at Night was my friend. So Sunday nights when it would switch, it was disappointing, but they would have this little disclaimer where it was like a black background and the Nick at Night logo and text scrolling on the screen where it would be like, Nick at Night is not responsible for the claims made in this paid programming, blah, blah. And it was the regular announcer that did all the commercials, but he was so, like, his tone was so serious and it was so,
Shifting.
and the way that it was this black
He'll
background.
punch you. Look out.
Well, and it scared me as a kid.
Yeah,
like
no, I
it
get
just
it.
seemed terrifying because it seemed like something serious and bad was happening. And then it would be something that I would be like, "Mom, what is this?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a paid program. Like it's whatever." And they would do they did one for like Time Life, and this might have just been a commercial too, but they had like the Time Life books about the supernatural. Those commercials were terrifying. So, like some of this old timey Nick at Night stuff that I try to find on the internet because it's like the core memory of it scaring me. It's like, ooh, it's still a little chilling. But just something about the typically happy-go-lucky announcer guy talking like this was just very like, oh, something
No, I
bad's
get that.
happening. I don't
I get
like
that.
it. Just distressed my childhood brain. Like, oh, what's happening?
Whole tone shift.
All right. Anybody else want to throw one out? Otherwise, I'll take a.
All right. Mine was after Saturday Night Live. The Honeymooners.
Oh.
Would come on.
Okay.
So I was very young, like too young to understand half of what was going on
Sure.
Saturday Night Live, but there were still things that were amusing. And I don't know what I was doing up that late, but Saturday Night Live would end, and the Honeymooners would come on, and it was very jarring because it's in black and white, and I think it was still, I was young enough that I didn't really fully understand why, and it was further confusing because then in the morning, like early enough, there'd be something like Lassie on, which is also black and white. So
Right.
like, why is there not color TV at certain periods of time? But the Honeymooners would come on, and there's like fireworks that go off,
Yep. Right.
and the music is orchestral, and the moon rises.
I don't
And didn't it have his face in the moon?
Yes,
it's so
yes.
scary.
Jackie Gleason's face materializes on the moon.
Yeah. That's creepy. I guess.
It's horrible.
I'm concerned that I actually grew up living your fear. I'm actually stunned by this, but you won't believe this. So my mom has always prided herself that our kitchen chairs looked exactly like the honeymooners. And we also had a collie. So somehow your fear of the nighttime going into daytime was my everyday.
And your mom painted Jackie Gleason's face on the moon.
Wow. That's a good. No, but I totally get it.
Yeah.
The face in the moon.
And it was such a shift
Oh my God!
from
you just
Saturday Night
reminded me
Live.
of one that I didn't even write down, but I'm going to interject. Remember when McDonald's had the guy with the big
Mac tonight.
Yeah.
That's kind of well connected there, yeah.
The
That's
Rice
the
Lake,
Shape of Water guy. Was
Yeah.
that?
the
he played
Rice
that guy.
Lake one. McDonald's had like the entire.
They did.
Yeah,
And for
him
some
playing
reason,
a piano.
I was a little bit scared of him there, but in the commercials, oh my God, it scared the shit out of me.
Absolutely.
I had my birthday parties at that McDonald's.
Oh,
In Rice Lake?
Yes.
Oh.
With the Mac Tonight.
I was
guy in the
obsessed with
middle.
that jukebox that they had.
Yes, it was like a 50s style diner.
I
It was
think
the
that's
whole
what was
thing.
kind of interesting. Like, even TV back at that time, because Nick at Night was starting. And then we're living, like, in 80s culture. So there was so many things that were blending together. And I think Mac the Knife, like, was literally, amalgamation, like, of that. Like, and that's neat. But, like, I suppose that could be scary for anyone. I think.
Well, there's something about, and I don't know. It's weird because when it's animated, kids seem to love it, but when it's not animated, this anthropomorphic object is just very off-putting to the child brain. It's like,
Right. No,
I've
heard
Uncanny
things
Valley type of thing.
Yeah.
Uncanny Valley is my jam as far as things that creep me out. Because one of my other ones is animatronics. Now, mind you,
big time.
the fact they freak me out is partly why I love them. But it's not just limited to animatronics specifically. It's like when you'd go to Chuck E. Cheese and they'd be on stage. You couldn't go up on stage. Like, and as a child, in your mind, no one can go up there. They just exist. They're just up there, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
When you're older, you understand that there's a way to get to them, and there's a way
Right.
that people put them there. But when you're a kid, you just think it's just always existed there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why, like, the animatronics at Disney creep me out so much, because, like, Pirates of the Caribbean, you're in a boat in water, and, like, as an adult, I understand it's on a track. The water is maybe 3 feet deep, but when you're a kid, it's like there's something about being underground in a cave, even though it's not real. It feels real, and it's like, and there's weird moving things, and in my brain as a kid, it was like these things are just there, and they're just untouchable, and that
kinda
made
get
them
that.
so terrifying.
I never really built any sort of association like that to put into those words. But as you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, as a kid, I just thought, like, the Chuck E. Cheese things, that's where they live. Like, I kind of, like, I knew in the back of my head that somehow they were programmed.
Sure.
But, like, the idea of somebody going up to them was like, no, you don't go up there.
Right, you like even the Country Bear Jamboree. There's a back door. Someone comes on the stage and checks the machine and makes sure everything's okay. But in my brain, they're just up there. They just exist, and there's just something about older objects. And that's the thing too. Like, I know now that at, like, Disney, they update the animatronics. They put new clothes on them. They refurbish them all the time. But when I was a kid, I didn't understand that. In my mind, that's the same thing that's been there since 1959, and that's terrifying that it just never gets cleaned or touched or anything, which isn't true. But in my brain, it was like, oh. And then people are always like, oh, you'd love Friday, like Five Nights at Freddy's. But when I've ever watched that stuff, I'm like, it doesn't have the same Uncanny Valley effect because it looks so cartoony to me. It's like, no, I need it to be like a real animatronic. It's like, I don't know.
I think the one thing that you've been interested lately was the that dragon in Vegas. Like, the fact that you could open something.
And this is part of my fear of animatronics comes to, like, you don't know where they are. So at the Excalibur in Vegas, there used to be like the moat, and there would be a dragon that would come out and shoot fire, and then this little Merlin animatronic would come out and, like, zap it, and it would go back in the cave. Well, I watched a video about someone who's like, well, whatever happened to the dragon? They drained the moat, blah, blah, blah. This guy went there and, like, snuck in and went underneath this thing, and there's the dragon just sitting there rotting underneath. So when you're in that casino, there's this rotting dragon just sitting underneath the casino.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Could, and they're like, oh, it could easily be refurbished and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but who wants to touch it? That's so scary. That's so scary.
So
and
like, you
apparently,
can see it?
you're not.
Okay.
You can't from up there. Like, the guy snuck in and climbed underneath the door.
Restricted
and, like,
area.
There's like a gate that used to open up where he'd come out. So, and he filmed it, and it kind of got, you could tell where it used to just be at the water level. It's kind of all crusty on the bottom, but now that it's drained, it's just sitting there. And apparently the Merlin animatronic is in good shape, even though it doesn't have its head. And it's still in the little cottage that Merlin was in. But that kind of stuff creeps me out, too. Because, like, the
creepy.
cottage is there, and it's not a real cottage. Mm-hmm. It's like the museums do that kind of stuff, too, where they have, like, old-timey, here's, like, what a storefront looked like, and you look in there, and it's like, ooh.
Right.
But that's also what I dig about it. I love the chilling,
No, totally get it. Because, like, Disney has some stuff like that, like old park stuff that they just abandoned because it cost more to tear down and they have enough space. So, like, there was a water park called River Country. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is just run down and
full of algae. And,
it's disgusting. But, like, there were some dudes that broke in and filmed it, and I watched a documentary that somebody made on it, and it was amazing. It's weird because it's like looking at a ghost. Because, like, I remember when I was there when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then, but it's not that anymore. It's just a shell of something, and it just creeps me out.
What did Disney have, the animal park that was on that little island that
Discovery Island or
something like that, and like that got abandoned. But
okay, just so you know, it's hard for me to remember the name because, full disclosure for anyone listening to the pod, like me and my entire family obsessed with Disney. But when we went to that island when I was a kid, my mom kept getting shit on by birds. So we called it Bird Shit Island.
But that's the same island I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about the same place.
People have snuck on there and filmed it, and it's like it's weird when anything gets abandoned, like a restaurant or a theme park. It's like at some point the last person left, and I think that it's this haunting thing because who knew? Did they know no one would come back? Right. But it's like all this plant life has overgrown all the buildings, and there's like a calendar on the wall still from whatever year they stopped using it, and it's just like, ooh.
If you want me to get to click on a link, just make an article about abandoned places or a video. I will watch it every time.
Me too.
I'll make a video.
I just think about all of the all of the castles overseas that have just been left to
nature,
to rot, to disintegrate, and like, what happens to those? Who owns those? Like, could I go decide to live in that castle?
I think you should.
I think where we live too in Wisconsin, like, I feel like farms. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize recently we were at our 200th year or 250th year celebration for Eau Claire, and we were at the museum, and one of the exhibits talks about farming in Wisconsin, but I didn't realize silos actually were invented in Wisconsin.
Oh, what?
And only really became popular in really the turn of the century 1900s. And so when you think about the picturesque farm in all of our minds, really that started here. So we do see a lot of those, but man, abandoned barns, and I think that sticks out to me. I mean, it's not as grand as a castle, but
right.
But some of these were probably some of the original big milking parlors. And if you look at like old like farm tools and everything, I think that's kind of creepy.
Well, right, and like at the museum they have that big cow. It's like a big fiberglass cow.
It's a great exhibit.
Oh, it's awesome. But I think to myself how terrifying it would be to be in that place in the dark.
It scared me the last time I was there. I had to do a project on it for my museum degree, and the cow moves occasionally. There's like the sound of the thing.
I didn't know it did that.
It startled me.
Okay.
I bet.
Yeah.
I think I don't think I've ever been afraid of the dark, but I think it is the shadows and the lights that really trick me.
Well, for me, it's like not the dark itself. It's the things being there in the dark. I used to have this fear that when you'd go swimming in like a lake or a river, that there'd be stuff in there that shouldn't be there. And in my mind, it was like, what if someone threw an old merry-go-round, like a carousel in here? So there's just like fiberglass horses under the water. Like, and then I discover there's a thing called submechanophobia, which is like man-made objects being partially or fully submerged. And I think that's kind of that thing. And I don't have it like some of these reaction videos I watch where people gag and like scream, but the stuff is creepy.
It is.
There's like the anglerfish from Finding Nemo on one of these rides. It's creepy in all the videos I've seen because I've never been on that ride. But when I saw a picture of the people who have to scuba dive to go clean it, and it's actually very big, it was like, oh, that's terrifying. This giant anglerfish that's just there, and the people are scrubbing the teeth. And I'm like, you could get eaten by that thing, even though it's not real. But it's like, oh, it's so scary.
I don't like that.
Well, I feel like I am the one that's going to have to bring some class to this podcast. But all of the things that I am scared...
Country class.
Right? Everything that I'm scared about had usually something to do with the bathroom.
Yeah.
And one of being that you were talking about the dark and what happens in the dark. Well, it's actually two things that I did as a child. And I'm talking like early elementary school. In the morning, for some reason, I was petrified to have a bowel movement. Something felt wrong and unnatural about it, so I would hold it all day long. Which then caused my second issue, my fear, which, God bless this man, our janitor at the school. So to bring it around, my mom was a first grade teacher, and I went to school at the same school that she taught at. So it was quite common that I would have to spend, the afternoon after school waiting for my mom to get done. Well, in your winter days when you didn't have much, daylight, it became really scary because I'd turn off all the lights in the school. And the only thing that was left in the building was myself, my mom, and the janitor. And if you had to go to the bathroom, which of course I would have to do because I would not be able to do a number 2 in the morning, I would save it for 5 o'clock, like on the dot every day. And I timed it with our janitor at the school. God bless his heart. But the bathroom was just down the hallway, and it would be really dark, and I'd be scared of the dark. And I would wait till I would hear his little cart come around the corner. And when he would go on the women's bathroom, that was like in my brain, like, it's time to go. So I would meet him in the bathroom, and this poor man, like, there was nothing pervy about him at all. Don't get me wrong in that aspect. I just didn't want to be alone, and he was there. So I would proceed to do my doings while he is in the bathroom cleaning all of the stalls except for mine. And my feet would be swinging. We'd be talking. It was good times because I was scared of the dark. And he was there. He was my full bet that every day at 5 o'clock, somebody was going to be there so I wouldn't be alone. He was just trying to do his job. He didn't want to be there.
I genuinely love this story. It's about an adult who was sweet and helped out a little girl. I think it's great.
Kind of. I mean, the poor man is deceased now, so I mean, we can talk about this without there being charges, but it's just wrong. Why would I do that to that poor man? Because I was scared of the dark
It's
and not
funny that,
willing
like,
to take a deuce in the morning.
You somehow had a boundary, but now you're worried, like, you crossed his boundary.
I know. Well, I mean...
And before we go further, I have to say, I would love the title of a book to be myself, my mom, and the janitor. And with the story, you don't know where that's going, but...
Every day at 5 o'clock, janitor poops. Poops with the janitor.
I can't help it. Like, I had a song in my head. She does a BM in the PM. Does a BM in the PM.
I guess I was surprised that you actually ended up being regular after how you introduced the beginning of the story.
Well... And I would go the entire day because it just could not happen in the morning. I remember like actually like saddling the edge of our bathtub in hopes to just not have myself feel like I have to poop.
Right.
And I would get on the bus just
You
like,
and I, revealing a little bit here, but you and I had like some bathroom similarities. And just so you know, when I was a little kid, I was scared of the dark window at my grandpa's. He had a window in his bathroom, and when it was at night, even though like our parents were like, no, you can't do that, I'd be like, Courtney, come in the bathroom with me. And she wouldn't, I was
Right,
like
it wasn't
4.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
No. But she would sit in there and she'd be like, it's okay, Gary, you can go poop. And then I would just poop. So, I mean, we had that long before the janitor even.
Yeah. And ironically, because the janitor was so old, he had to retire at some point, and apparently I still had to poop at 5 o'clock. So the new janitor started, and he was not willing to take on that negotiation. So that was, thankfully I went on to middle school then at that point, but poor guy.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
I love it.
What were you scared of, Tiffany?
So, my list was a lot of things that I think are probably legitimately scary. But Courtney's bathroom story actually reminded me, I think it was 4th grade? 4th grade, for sure. I had to picture which bathroom in the school it was. That's the year we discovered the Bloody Mary. And you'd go in there, right? And it's a long room where the light switches by the door. And, of course, the mirror's on the other side. So you'd go in there, and you'd say it in the mirror, and you'd look in the mirror, and someone would turn off the lights. Or, God forbid, you're the person actually using the toilet when someone decides that that's what they're going to do, and then the lights are off. Because there's no windows. There's no skylights. It's pitch dark there. So I wrote that on one of mine. But when Ryan was talking about animatronics and stuff, I was terrified of a Toy Story situation.
Oh, like them coming alive at night?
I was convinced that my toys and stuffed animals did, and it was very scary to me.
What would they do?
I don't know. That's the mystery.
No, but I get that.
Were they ever in like different spots in the morning?
I was convinced they were. Were they actually? Was I sleepwalking? Did I actually put it? I have no idea. But yes.
Well, like that kind of thing. Just the idea that something familiar, your toys that obviously you like, but in a different setting, are terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I had my mom worked at Pizza Hut, and when Land Before Time, they had like the hand puppets at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
When it was nighttime, my little foot puppets scared the crap out of me.
Oh, sure.
Because it looked. And I know E.T. isn't necessarily scary to some people, but like, and I knew E.T. was a good guy, but E.T. scared me. And in the dark, Littlefoot looked like E.T. and I'd be like, Mom, will you move him? Because like, I can't stare at that all night.
They were like that hard latex kind of.
Yep. Yeah. Which is funny because my Littlefoot stuffed animal didn't scare me at all. He was fine. He seemed normal at night.
No, that makes sense. Rubber's scarier than like a plushie.
Well, and
yeah,
Big Bird's not scary, but when I was a kid, like JCPenney's had, I don't know if it was like just like a display, but they had this like mannequin of Big Bird, and his eyes were kind of droopy. Because I think it was older. It was from like the late 70s, early 80s, and I was terrified of that thing. Like Big Bird himself did not scare me, but that, and I don't know what my mom's friend thought it'd be funny. She's like, "Well, Ryan, come here," and she took my hand and she walked me around the aisle to where that thing was, knowing I was terrified of it, and I like, oh my gosh. So I always joke to my mom, that's why I'm scared of like animatronics and things like that, because this old scary Big Bird would just stand there and look kind of stoned. I don't know. But the idea that it was older looking, he was kind of ratty, like, whew, terrified me. So like, I get the toys being scary in a different setting.
Yeah.
Because there was a Big Bird pillow that was on the wall, and she's like, well, does that scare you? I'm like, no, that's Big Bird. That's fine. I don't know what this weird thing is in this other aisle.
I also really want to know why they didn't clean my room.
Because they were
If they're
lazy.
getting up in the middle of the night and messing around in my room, they could at least clean it.
Agreed.
I just want you to know you wouldn't have been scared of Bloody Mary had my janitor not have been there.
I wanted to go back to that too. Growing up north, I always think of, plus the rural areas, I'm a complete city kid. But I always think, like, when I drive past these elementary schools, like, in the middle of, like, farm country or the woods, and there's nothing else around them, I have to think that has to be terrifying some nights when you're leaving school. Like, it would just get to be evening and you come out by yourself or, like, a small group. Like, to me, going out into a cornfield is probably the most terrifying thing for me. Part of that's probably because of when I was growing up, we had a pumpkin farm that had haunted hay rides every year, and a lot of times they would do whatever popular horror film was out that year. So you would go and there'd be like little vignettes of things, and a lot of times like the one that sticks out in my mind is the year they did Nightmare on Elm Street, like the little girls doing the jump ropes in the middle of the cornfield.
Yes.
No, thank you.
Little, creepy little girls in
children.
Yeah,
horror
that
films.
was
It's
terrifying.
One of the
Or boys.
creepiest things.
I think that was the most
That sounds very-
terrifying thing. Freddy Krueger hopping on the hay wagon from like a tree, that was not as terrifying as those little girls. Those little girls in the cornfield still haunt me.
No, but that's the weird part about it. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, sometimes in those haunted houses, the thing that's supposed to be scary, you'd be like, oh, well, that's... Because, like, building off that, one of mine was, like, horror movies scared me as a child, but not the way a horror movie's designed to scare you. Like, I wouldn't be scared of Jason jumping out of the woods and, like, attacking me. I was creeped out thinking, this movie is about Jason, like, driving a car and going to the grocery store. You know, just being in normal settings, and that's terrifying. Whereas, like, in the movie, it's like, well, you're at this camp, and he's in the woods, and it's like, oh, it's designed to be scary. So, I understand. And the VHS covers, because when we were kids and grocery stores had videos that you'd rent,
Yep.
I miss that.
I always like to look at the horror section and scare myself, because I would look at all these video covers and just think, oh my gosh. And, like, I remember Halloween 4 has a picture of the Michael Myers mask, and I thought that was a movie about a guy whose face was all white. Like, I didn't know that it was a mask. I thought it was just this creepy guy with some skin problem who's a monster. And I always joke that horror movies in the 80s, the covers made me think skeletons were a lot more prevalent in horror movies than they actually are, because a lot of times it'd be like horror high and there'd be a cheerleader who's a skeleton. So I thought the movie had a skeleton in it. And when I became a teenager and started loving horror movies, I'd watch these and be like, there's no skeleton. There's just a murderer. But
Maybe they
the
were
skeleton...
just easy to draw.
What?
Maybe they were just easy to draw. Because a lot of them were kind of like, you know, hand-drawn
Sometimes.
slash
I think it was
airbrush.
just to imply death.
Yeah.
But I always thought, oh, this movie's got a skeleton in it. Nope, no skeleton. Even the earliest Freddy Krueger paintings, like, it's very skull. Because I think the first one got painted really before they had fully designed the character. So, for the first couple, he looked very, like, skeleton hand and all that stuff. But,
So my babysitter, I was probably between 5 and 8, somewhere in there. When did they come out? Those movies.
84, 85.
Okay, so very young.
Yeah.
Allowed me to watch them or watch them with me there babysitting, and I wasn't put to bed. I would stay up until bar closed and cook food for my parents. That's a whole other ball of wax. So while you're saying this, looking at the covers of these movies, I realized I went to my grandmother's antique shop after school. We would ride the bus. I would ride the bus, and often my bus driver would forget I was on there, and then he would get sad because I was like, hey, Scott, you left me on the bus. And you have to turn around. But next door was a movie, the only movie rental place in my whole town, and Sherry's Videos. And I would go there and hang out, and she'd let me watch videos in the back sometimes. But a lot of times I would just meander around, and I thought it was very naughty to like look at the horror section because that was for adults. Also thought it was naughty to look behind the curtain.
Yep, the curtain.
Why was it that horror sections were always near the curtain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that top 10 video that I used to go to,
It's like the entry hall
it was
to
like the
gate of
you walked in and there was all the shelves, and then the horror section was on like the left wall next to the checkout desk, and then beyond that was the curtain.
I paid a lot of attention to the titles right on the edge there.
Right, when someone would come in or out,
Side
you'd always
eye
try
and
to
over.
peek. You always try to peek in there.
So I was just thinking about the covers and how maybe that's the reason why I'm not a huge horror person, or I think I'm not. And then every time when I have a conversation about horror films, I'm like, oh yeah, I've watched that. It's good. But I'm always like, I don't want to watch a scary movie. Like, that's my instinct. Maybe that's it. I just had a epiphany moment.
I've got something I want to share with you.
Yes.
This is actually a co-fear, because even though we didn't obtain the fear together, Courtney and I have the same fear. and this is going to be a fun with audio fear.
Which we didn't find out until much later on in life.
Right. I was scared to death of the 80s version of the song Puttin' on the Ritz.
Absolutely.
The way the guy sang, it was just like this weird, almost computery voice. And it scared the shit out of me.
I immediately understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound angry.
Right.
Like,
Well, and then if you see the video, it's like
The video
it just combines,
just
like
makes
doubles
it
it.
all the worse.
So Courtney and I were talking about this too. The guy looks rather Frankenfurter-ish.
Yes.
Right? Was he going for that? Or
I
is
don't
it
know,
just-
but because I think at some point in my life I thought it was Tim Curry,
Right.
and I don't
But
even
it's some
not,
guy
and not
called
like
Taco.
child. I mean, sometime in like teenager time, I thought it was Tim Curry.
Now, when we were younger, was it part of a commercial or something?
I don't know. But the super duper, that really
Oh,
creeped me
because
out.
that, that robotic.
It's just bad.
the fedora remind me a lot of that one band that we like, Ryan, with the repeating or the fast singing.
Ooh, the spot where I paused it, it's just really creepy.
Yeah.
as hell. Oh no, no.
I mean, that's a lot of makeup.
Right?
It's just
There was building off that with Tim Curry.
It looks like
When
it.
Rocky Horror came out on video for the first time, it was a huge deal because that movie had never been released because it was such a flop, but it had been in theaters for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was terrified of Tim Curry, and it was because of the lipstick and the teeth. There's something about
sure.
Tim, and I would say to I remember saying to my mom, I was like 5 at the time. I'm like, Mom, that man is so scary. And Mom's like, it's just Rocky Horror Picture Show. That movie's funny. I'm like, but he's so scary.
It does
There was
feel
something
like,
about his lips that it looked like he just ate chocolate. I don't know why that scared me, but it was
Yeah.
like, oh. And now that I'm older, it's like, well, it's just the picture quality probably wasn't the greatest. It's just lipstick.
Right,
But when I was a
right.
kid, I thought, it's like he just ate. I pictured him eating one of the, like a turtle, like the walnut cluster. Like he just ate some turtles and then he had chocolate on his mouth and his teeth were like, I'm going to eat you, you're a child.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
In all fairness, in the movie, he does murder people. So, I mean,
Well,
there is
that's
that.
true. But at least he murders them cartoonishly.
Sure.
I was gonna say this video was kind of like a Phantom of the Opera, also.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of meets like London, like kind of poppy at the time.
Does anybody,
Yeah.
what
Like
else did
industrial
Taco
pop.
do?
I don't know, but it reminds me of One Night in Bangkok.
Thank you, because that is my number 2 here listed on there.
That song I actually love.
Shut the front door.
No, I don't know. But I think
Thank
I
you
didn't,
for saying that,
I
because
didn't-
that's the reason I hated
in
that
all
song. 'Cause it
fairness,
reminded me of
I
that.
didn't hear the song One Night in Bangkok until I was older. So I didn't have the kid thing. So maybe it creeped you out as a kid, but I loved that song.
Little known fact, written
never
by the
felt like
guys
any
from
trauma.
ABBA.
Really?
Well, and it's,
It's from
Anthony's-
their play Chess.
Anthony Stewart Head's
Brother. Yep.
Anthony Stewart Head was in Buffy.
Oh.
And Taster's Choice commercials. That's what we knew him from when Buffy
It was
started.
Murray Head, right?
Yep.
That
Yeah.
was his name? Yeah. I gotta look up Taco, though. I gotta see what else he did.
I can appreciate some of that 80s synth music,
No, like those,
like
but
hearing
those
it now,
two-
but that's still just
and like Rock Me
He's
Amadeus
Dutch.
is kind of in that same.
Yeah.
But I think there's a natural fear of like things
him
that are
now.
different. So,
right?
so like just the idea that
That's Taco Guy?
That's Taco.
He
As-
looks like he's off to commit a crime in his clogs.
He looks like a weird version of William Shatner.
If he made the video right now, would it be even more creepy?
no,
Yes.
to me, it'd be less creepy. 'Cause it'd be
No.
like,
No, disagree. It would be worse.
you'd be worse. Okay.
To kind of go off the music, we slightly discussed, but I feel like there were a lot of TV intro songs that were very creepy.
I actually have one listed here.
Give
as
me a
well.
couple. Let's
Oh,
let's
wait,
dive
wait.
through those
Okay,
right
let's
now.
go on 3.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, and then we'll say what ours was. The number 1 creepy one.
Okay. Mine's
ready?
actually a movie, so
Oh,
maybe.
that's not a movie.
well,
Okay.
Tiffany and I probably have the same one.
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
3, 2, 1.
Unsolved
Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes!
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even as an adult, I love that song. And a lot of
Right.
times when I go to sleep, I just play Unsolved Mysteries. It does
Right.
not scare me like it did.
I-
But
I would not be able to do that.
No.
No,
walk
I
in the
couldn't do
dark
that.
outside with that on your headphones,
Oh, I
and
know.
it's like
Oh,
every
bad.
shadow is something.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah. No. It would. It shocked me as an adult when I watched the new Netflix how I like my hair on my arms stood up when I heard that
Visceral
song.
reaction.
It was insane.
And they-
It
I
was,
feel
like,
a little
deep
bit now
inside.
just talking
Yes.
about it.
And the way when they showed the title, it just shows like that ghost of Robert Stack. It's
Right.
like, ooh.
Right.
And just his
Like,
voice in general, too.
I love
just,
it. I think they did a great job remaking it. I love the new one, but it was like so embedded in me. Like that song was associated with everything that scares you.
My cousins and I, when we'd be together on a Friday and it would be on, we would challenge ourselves to sit in the dark and watch it. And we'd be like, I can't do it. I got to turn the light on.
Right.
And sometimes it would be, a lost loves one. It wasn't even scary. We'd just be like,
'Cause
ooh,
that's the thing. It was hit and miss. There were some episodes that were just like sweet, like this guy lost his old sweetheart. Help them reunite. And there was. But then, oh my God, like the search for Bigfoot,
Yeah.
the UFO episodes.
Aliens are raping your neighbors.
Right.
I think this
I
might
mean,
be
some
the
of my
horror
neighbors
thing.
might like it.
Yeah.
Especially one that way. But,
well,
Fair.
and Unsolved Mysteries was scary. The show Rescue 911 typically was not scary.
right.
No.
But that intro used to scare me a little bit too.
Well, yeah. That actually did have Bill Shatner.
It did.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, it was like the footage was like a light shining over like a house.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and in my mind, it's like, because there's a burglar in that house or something scary, right? And when Carl and I were moving into our first place together to take a look at it, it's unlocked. Just go and look. So I, of course, go over there at night and there's no electricity on. So I have to just open the door and like turn on a flashlight and look. And while I'm doing that, I think of that Rescue 911 opening, and I'm like, oh my God, what if someone's in here? Because the door is just unlocked. There could just be some random hobo who's going to, like, attack me. So I, like, looked, and I'm like, yep, looks good, and I left.
I do feel like Rescue 911 was like our original Final Destination. Because
Yeah.
I think most people our age remember certain episodes.
Well, everyone talks about the Final Destination log, and I
Yeah.
think, well, for me, that was a Rescue 911 segment.
Yeah.
Where that chunk of wood fell off and hit that guy.
Yeah.
He lived, though.
Yeah.
And it was an old man. Usually on Rescue 911, the people lived. That was kind of the idea. Like,
Yeah.
you rescued these people.
Yep.
But do you remember there was one where it was like a little girl came home from school, and she was home alone for 2 hours after school every day, and someone knocked on the door, and like she didn't want to answer it, and they just kept pounding, and they kept like like there was like a frosted glass next to the door, and they like kept putting their hand up there. So she called 911 because she's like, someone's trying to get in my house. And then when the police officer came, he like put his shoulder up against the window so she could see his patch or whatever. But that always terrified me because the idea that there was someone at the door who's you couldn't see their face.
Yeah.
Like it was just this hand, and it was like, oh, it's so scary.
I'm pretty sure I completely blocked Rescue 911 out of my brain.
Why? It was so good.
You guys are bringing it up and talking
I don't
about it.
remember it.
I'm like, I don't really remember it, but
Oh.
So I pulled up the picture and I was like, I do, but I blocked it out. I'm pretty
Right.
sure.
Okay.
There
fair
was
enough.
one that my cousin and I were obsessed with, and we still quote it to this day. Like a man had this ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife, and they like... I don't know if she thought they were getting back together or what was going on, but he ends up pulling a gun on her, and he says, like, you can't trace this gun, it's not in my name, and he shoots her. Well, she lives, but... When the sheriff, whoever's talking about what they did, he was like, well, they pulled up to a dirt lane and, well, they had sex. So my cousin and I would just say that. They had sex all the time. I could call her right now and be like, hey, they pulled up into a dirt lane. She would say, they had sex.
Excellent. I want to know your movie, but I do have 2 more TV themes.
Well, you trade on and off.
Yeah, let's hop into a movie.
Let's hear some of yours. Courtney.
Well, I just had one movie one.
Let's hear it.
And it's a song that had no lyrics to it. It was just all instrumental.
Okay.
It is the theme song from Beverly Hill Cops.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Courtney,
Horrifying.
I think you have
Really?
something like aggressive, like pop, like
Against
aggressive pop songs.
synthesizers.
Yeah,
Maybe.
That
Maybe
was-
maybe it's Uncanny Valley because it's not like the real instrument. It's
yeah,
like a
like electronic music.
Yeah.
Maybe that's like the
Something.
interesting.
There's something.
I'm glad
there.
that you were able to sing that for me because
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have
just tried
nightmares.
and I failed miserably. No, I love
I
this song.
I
as a
get
kid.
Really?
it. I get it. Not to the extent of putting on the Ritz, but I get it a little bit.
okay,
Yeah.
good, thank you.
I'm gonna throw out another song that I loved that was instrumental, But like the one from Ferris Bueller, like oh yeah, I love that.
But did you ever like? For me, it was things like, okay, so that voice is super deep. What does that man look like? I can't see him.
Oh, yeah.
That would scare me as a kid.
That's true.
Like I don't know what the man looks like. I just hear this voice, and it would just kind of.
Yeah.
So what are your other?
Yeah.
Well, the other one one of them is X-Files.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very creepy, and it's supposed to be. I understand that, but like.
I feel like the opening credits was scarier than the show itself for me.
Absolutely.
The thing where like
100%
shows like the
agree.
handprint and then the guy falling. That was just the imagery is just like even when I was preteen teenager, it took me back to being 4 and creepy things on TV like that. It was like,
I would agree.
And the last one is a show that we know and love, but it did take me a long time to be brave enough to watch it.
Yeah.
And it's Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh yeah.
the opening credits to that is also
Yep.
scarier than most
Scarier than
episodes.
Yep.
But now as an adult, when I watch it, I kind of giggle a little because I'm like, oh, look at the fun little fire thing that they did. Like, because it does the...
I still.
It was Coffee Mate. It was like creamer that would. There was an effect that would make the fire get bigger, but the was from throwing Coffee Mate because it has like silicone in it or something, silicone based something like that, or petroleum. Whatever. It's based on some flammable thing.
Those stories are so good, though. It's
Yes.
almost like
Love Are You Afraid of the Dark?
like a Tales of the Crypt kind of like for family, I guess.
No, lately I've really been getting into like anthology horror because it's
I've always liked that.
because it's like this story just takes place in its own little world, and when it's done, it's done. There isn't like I don't mean
They're
I
nice and
love ongoing
self-contained.
narrative, but because I love ongoing narratives, I love the spicing it up of like I'm gonna watch Tales from the Crypt, and that story is 22 minutes, and that's the end.
I did love Tales from the Crypt, and the Crypt Keeper scared me, but then again, it was supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, totally.
My Mandela effect for the Crypt Keeper is I remember as a kid him being slimy, but he never really is. It's just the slime in the opening credits.
It also drives me crazy because that was on HBO. So then when I got HBO Max, I'm like, oh, Tales from the Crypt. Nope, nowhere on it. What the hell?
Well, and I remember I always watched Tales from the Crypt on Fox.
Oh, sure.
So the versions I watched were definitely edited for network TV, but then like when they're on DVD, it's like, oh, this is so much better. It's a little creepier. And
Jay's having a thought.
Oh, I'm just wondering if that sounds vaguely familiar too. The slimy Crypt Keeper.
I just
So
remember
don't
him
know if
being
that's-
slimy. I
if
don't
I'm
know.
thinking from like some of the comic book covers, because the library used to have like a collection of
Yeah. I
the old
remember
Tales from the
those.
Crypt comics. So I'm wondering if maybe one of those
Well,
had a
didn't,
slimy
as
Crypt
the
Keeper.
seasons progressed, like didn't he continue to like deteriorate, or is that just?
I don't know.
I don't recall.
That would have been really clever if they did.
That's what my husband says, and I don't remember that.
Well, and I'm sure they had to make new animatronics every so often.
Right.
But
It is. I think the design got crisper as it went along.
Okay.
If anything,
Well,
but that would be creepy.
they
in
would
itself.
keep
Yeah.
improving it for sure.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get to season 9, like we're using a decade-old technology. No, we need a new face or whatever. I don't know how often.
Can we listen to the Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? I recently watched every episode of the original. Now I'm in like the old reboot era where they did like 2 seasons in like 1999 and 2000, where Tucker from the original Midnight Society, well, not original, he was like a later edition in the first series, is the only carryover, but now it's all his friends. It's very good. But now I'm trying to get through that so I can get to the brand new Nickelodeon, like the newer, where it's like the Midnight Society actually deals with the scary stuff.
Sure. Man, I fucking love it.
I know.
Snick.
I would
man,
always,
Little Caesars and Snick.
I would laugh my butt off that my cousin would
Little
always
Caesars.
would always get freaked out by episodes that weren't that scary.
I
It'd be like-
literally can feel it. I like just listening to that little snippet. Like my body reacted, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I love the show.
Oh, I think that speaks volumes to the work put in to that as a piece of art. The fact that it can take you back like that. I say Kudos to
and
the
that
creators. They did a phenomenal
just
job.
For real.
like, I mean, in the opening, it's done with like the ghosty voice, but like those notes,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like it's
the
such a
little
good.
heartbeat in the background.
Yeah.
And like that.
I don't know why, but I thought the boat just sitting in the little thing was the creepiest.
Yes.
Because like this boat is just sitting there by itself. Where are the people? Are they dead? Like it was always so many questions.
And then somebody comes out of a cabin. We're just inside. Settle down, Ryan. Do we have any more show/movie related ones? Let's.
I
get
have
those
one
out of
that's
the way.
somewhat related to Unsolved Mysteries,
Okay.
but not just. It would also Crime Stoppers, any of those.
Sure.
When they would show a composite sketch of a murderer or a robber or anything,
Yes.
it would terrify me on a level that like now that I've seen their face, they know where I live and they're gonna come get me. Like I would watch the composite sketch on Unsolved Mysteries, then the next time I'd go to the bathroom, I'd be like afraid they were by my window.
No.
And
I
that
know.
fear is
The
not
sketch-
rational, but
the
when you're a
sketch
child,
to me was scarier than a freaking mugshot.
well, and every
Yeah.
once in a while now they'll show a sketch, even in like forensic files that you know the person was caught and everything, but when they show the composite sketch, it's like my core memory is still like oh, it's okay, Ryan, it's fine. But there was one Unsolved Mysteries where it was like a woman disappeared. She was working at a gas station and she disappeared. And I don't remember if they found her body or what, but one of the witnesses said they came in one night and there was some guy working there who didn't seem to know where anything was, and he had a Megadeth t-shirt on. And when they showed the composite sketch, I'm like, oh, that guy's gonna get me now. And I was so terrified of just strangers as a child.
Stranger
But like
danger. That's what they taught us.
driving down the street at night with my grandma and grandpa, and I'm in the back seat, and I would just look out the window, and when we'd pass people, you just look at people, and there was a man with like a big scraggly beard. He looked like the trucker from Adventures in Babysitting, Mr. Pruitt. And he's
Mr.
driving,
Pruitt.
and I'm sure he just saw like, oh, some little kids watching me, and he probably just turned his head. But in my mind, he turned his head to like, ah! Like to scare me. And I don't know if he did, but it scared me. It was like, that man's gonna follow us, and he's gonna murder me in my sleep.
No, he's just gonna, kick his old lady's boyfriend out of the house.
Yep. And shoot out your mom's car window to fix it for you.
Jeez. That got crazy.
That actually brings up the last two things on my list.
Let's hear it.
Which,
I like good transitions.
well, yeah. So these are things that we were, and you may have seen these on other lists or other places, but it's true. Growing up in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, they taught us a lot of safety things, right? We have Dare, we have Stranger Danger,
Mr. Yuck.
Yeah.
Mr.
Oh,
Yuck.
good.
We actually use those stickers with our kids still.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
I loved the Hugs Not Drugs campaign.
yeah.
Anyway.
So these two things are things that scared me, but I was also prepared for slightly. Quicksand
Sure.
Right?
and the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes. The Bermuda Triangle scared the shit out of me. And like
Why?
when I was older, I'm like, where are all these lost planes?
Well, not only that, you're scared of the Bermuda Triangle, but like you have to go there. It's not going to come get you.
Right.
We are related to Amelia Earhart,
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that's
so maybe that's.
But she didn't get lost anywhere near the Bermuda Triangle.
I don't know. I'm trying to help you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you're saying just because Lost Aviators, it cut?
It-
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you. I appreciate that.
No problems.
those are like, why are we prepared for that? Why are we worrying
Right.
about that? Why is that a thing? And so I think I was discussing this with my husband, and I thought it's because there are like plot points maybe in some like
Well,
major TV shows or movies.
That's what's kind of funny, like, especially now when we talk about all these reboots and when they say, why aren't there any original ideas? But stories are told over and over again. And common themes, I would say, yeah, during the beginning of TV, I bet there was only so many ideas. I mean, you're coming from pure radio shows to television, and you're putting out cartoons, you're putting out scripted shows, you're putting out variety shows.
with very low budget for
Yeah.
scripted shows. You need to
So
focus on dialogue more than anything, but you have to create peril that you can film.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
image-wise, I bet really quicksand is kind of entertaining to watch.
I may or may not have a very, very, very ridiculous adult film from the 80s with Jeff Stryker, and there's quicksand in one scene. And it's literally like they poured a bunch of sawdust on a body of water and had the guy like he's sinking into it.
Amazing.
And I don't remember if he saves him with a stick, like he holds a big log out and pulls him out, or I don't remember exactly
I
what
bet
it
he
is, but
does.
that's later.
It's funny to think about too, like, you know, because you always see the memes now of, we thought this was going to be more of an issue.
Yeah.
But for some reason, because of the era we grew up in, you're always prepared for that. And you're trying to remember, what am I supposed to do
You know
when I'm
what
in
you're supposed to
quicksand?
You're supposed to spread out.
Don't fight it.
move.
It's the opposite of when you're in an avalanche. You're supposed to move around a lot because you kind of can get.
It's
on
too
top
much
of
to
it.
think about. I have to Google every time, like, I'm going to, like, use the jumper cables on the car. Like, the positive, negative thing, and which one I'm supposed to attach to the metal. Like, and now I'm supposed to think during an avalanche.
Move around.
Wait, oh, is this like quicksand?
Carl's gonna die.
Yeah, I am.
What if it's an avalanche of quicksand?
I
I
just
don't
I
think
hope the
that's-
janitor's there because I'm gonna shit myself.
That's a phrase that Gary and I used a lot, and Carl too, when
That's
we were
true.
in college. It was like, oh, I want to shit my dress.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes, I would say that. Even though I wasn't wearing a dress. Oh,
No,
I'm gonna shit my
I'm
dress.
shit my dress.
Oh, all right. Just because we're going a little long, I'm gonna throw out some odd ones that I have here. One thing that I was scared of, the hokey pokey. Now, why was I scared of the hokey pokey? I think it was more the pressure, where I didn't want to dance in front of people, but anytime it came on, it's like, no, come on, Gary, we're doing the hokey pokey. And I'm just like, shut the fuck up, I don't want to do the goddamn hokey pokey.
Wow.
It scared me.
And here I was thinking it was going to be that you had an image in your head of you like throw your left hand in, like it's
No.
detached from the body.
No, but I think like there was that pre-recorded one that I think they played at Moulton's, and that dude's voice creeped me out too.
Yeah.
But no, it was the whole pressure
rink.
of I don't want to perform in front of all you fuckers. Leave me alone.
You obviously, I mean, it's the obvious joke, right? You really didn't know what it was about.
Ouch.
I mean, I thought you were setting that up, but
I'm really glad you took it.
I took it though.
I
But this you not liking to dance in front of people actually still pretty common, right?
yeah.
It's hard, and I get it, and I think it depends on, like, for me, I tell myself, especially at other people's weddings, nobody here is here to like look at me, and if they are, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Because I get that sort of fear. Like I don't do well when like there's a dancing circle. It's like someone get in the middle. Like I don't like that, and I think that goes back to my earliest. It's not my earliest memory of my birthday, but it's one of my earliest. Like I remember sitting on my grandma's lap and everyone around the table singing happy birthday to me, and me looking at all the people singing and having them all looking at me, and that feeling creeped me out. I felt like I had to perform for them while they were singing. Like,
Sure.
I became conscious of what's my face doing? Do I look scared? Do I look happy? What am I doing? And ever since then, it's like, I really don't like when people sing happy birthday to me because I don't know what to do with myself.
Can we sing it if you like
get
have a
that.
sack over your head?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, don't look at me. Sing it to me, but don't look at me.
I like the idea where it's a tradition where we put a bag over Ryan and then we sing happy birthday. Like that thought makes me really happy inside.
I really, it's like a thing. Like if I
No, I
put
get
sunglasses on, I bet it wouldn't have bothered
I
me
get
as
it.
much.
No, I get it. I do.
And I had to be like 3, but it just was like everyone's singing at me, and I'm scared.
I'm gonna throw out another one. Trains. Now here's why they scared me. Because there's some logic behind it, but I'm gonna take it towards illogical as a kid.
Is it because of Stand By Me?
But I used that would be something. But no, it was where I grew up. We lived by a train track. Courtney remembers that. And my mom would try to, don't go by the train. If the train's coming, get away. Because nobody wants little kids run over. That just ruins your day.
Right.
And
Real bummer.
nobody wants it. But like my childhood brain took it to another level where it's like, are there monsters on the train? Is there somebody that's going to shoot me when they're going by? So when the train would come by, I would run and hide. I didn't even want to be seen by the train. It was like it was some demonic monster barreling down the tracks that I hide from. So I got over it quick, but it was almost like a story I built up in my head, and then I kind of believed it. And then,
You know, not exactly trains, but when I lived, when my mom and my stepdad and I lived in that duplex on, it was right through our backyard was a fence, and then there was like the steel places and all that, and like the train tracks go across like at the end of that street. Well, one night I'm laying in bed, and we'd only lived there for a couple months. It was like that summer we moved in, and mind you, at that point I maybe did, but me now, I don't believe in ghosts the way people do. But there was something on my wall, and it was like a weird sparkly, like, well, out of the corner of my eye, it looked like an alien dancing at first, and I was like, what was that? And I'm just looking at this shimmering light on my wall, and I'm like, Mom, come in here. And she comes in here, I'm like, Mom, what's that on my wall? Because I'm thinking, is it a ghost? Is it an alien? What is this thing? Because I can't come up with an explanation as to why there's just this shimmering light on my wall. And what we ended up figuring out was there was that behind the fence in our backyard was like a light on the building, and when the tree branches would move, but because it was so diffused, it wasn't a solid shadow. It was just this weird like ripply light effect. But so for about 5 minutes that night, I was like, oh my God, the aliens are coming. They're going to get me. There's a ghost in our new house. I don't know what to do.
Speaking of ghosts, when I was really young, I had a very big fear of becoming possessed, which I understand is a fear in itself, but I think I took it to the complete next level.
I don't know if that's true. Let's compete.
Okay. So when I was very young, my mom had a friend who was a college professor. And during that time in the mid-'80s, there was a 2020 show on demon possession, and there was this woman that was actively, they were trying to exorcise the demons and all that, and it was quite the topic of the town. And the professor, I was listening in, and he was saying, you know, if you believe in possession enough, yeah, that's the word, enough, and are scared of it enough, it can happen to you. Like, you've let yourself become open to being possessed.
But but they even address that in The Exorcist.
They do?
They call it somnambuliform possession. It's like a person believes in it enough that anything that happens to them, it's a demon. So then, in a weird way, if they get an exorcism, it helps them because they believe it helped them.
Okay.
So then,
right.
And that's actually what kind of frustrates me about people who do exorcisms, especially non-clergy people who do them. It's like, and they, charge for it. It's like you're ripping these people off because they have a superstition. But
well, this girl who's scared to poop in the dark finds out that anyone can just be possessed at any time, right. And I horrified. So there's two things that happen with this story.
Well, and you're half Catholic, so that adds a
yes.
little bit to it.
Yeah. So the Catholic part got me, as it does. But two things happen here. So, like, when you're just, he's talking about, like, elevating from your bed and shaking and doing all this. Well, I'd be asleep at night, and maybe as you're, like, winding down, your finger might, like, twitch. Or maybe your eye will kind of twitch. So I'd be like, holy shit, it's happening. This is it. This is the moment. So we would go to church Saturday night. And as you'd walk into the church, there'd be like these little goblets of holy water. So I'd be putting that holy water on every damn little spot that ever twitched or wiggled or thinking I am for real possessed. But then also during this time frame, my mom, I was scared of the dark, obviously, as you can tell. My mom would often sleep with me to get me, like, just to,
asleep.
To start drifting off. And she, during this time frame, actually started developing seizures. So in the middle of the night, at times, she would have a seizure, and I'm like, this is it. This is the big one. I am now 100% possessed. And that's my story. How is yours?
Well, it doesn't go into that. That is awful, and I thought if that happened to me, I'd probably die. But I was terrified of being possessed and the devil.
Yeah.
And I think I attributed it a little to like pop culture. Like that was like a storyline. That was a lot of stuff. But I literally slept on the couch outside of my parents' bedroom for almost 2 years.
Oh.
Because for whatever reason, my proximity to them would keep me safe somehow.
It's interesting how when we're younger, like the parents can protect you from anything.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm safe now.
I did start sleeping on their floor in their bedroom at first, but they eventually kicked me out. And yeah, I slept on the couch for 2 years, just because I would go to bed in my bedroom, but I would never stay there, because also, you know, getting to the bed with whatever's living under your bed was also difficult as a child.
Right.
How old were you?
Oh, that was probably like 9, 10, 11 range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be like 93, 94, 95, 96-ish, somewhere
Yeah.
there.
So you were afraid of possession up until the point when I rented The Exorcist and got really into that story. And we moved around that time. It was right after we moved into our house that my mom and my stepdad live in now. And because of that, there's like weird things I associate with The Exorcist, like the way, because it's like a bi-level house, and the downstairs was where my bedroom was, and there was a bathroom, and then there was another like family room, and the way that room smelled, because it was next to the laundry room, when I smell that smell, it's a specific, like it smelled very like a candle. Mm-hmm. When I smell that whatever fragrance that candle was, I go, oh yeah, like the tiny period of time when The Exorcist scared me, because it was still new to my brain, and then it ended up becoming one of my favorite movies, and like I know so much about how they made it.
The house that your mom's in now.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, full disclosure for everyone, there was a tree house in back, and it had a big like stuffed doll in it, and the doll's name was Father Karras.
We named it Father Karras because we would throw it. They had a deck outside, and we would throw it down the stairs. But it was the kid who lived there before me that had made it and put it in the
or something.
And Ryan loves the Exorcist films and books.
You can't
And
interrupt this.
The first time I ever saw The Exorcist,
This was before we met.
this is
He told me
terrible,
about it.
but I could not stop laughing. Like,
I still have never watched it. I will never watch it.
I love that that's your response, though.
But honestly, when it got re-released in theaters when I was in high school, when they added a bunch of footage. I shouldn't say added. What they did was they took stuff that had gotten taken out for the original cut that the writer always wanted in, and put it back in. There were scenes that people chuckled at, but then when it got to the crucifix scene, the whole audience was like, and I'm like, yeah, you're not laughing now, are you, weirdos?
Is that the whole like F me part?
yeah. See,
Well,
I think maybe part of it.
There's multiple scenes where she gets vulgar, but that's...
I think mine definitely was like the macabre of it laughter, because like there's obviously her being possessed, but to me the part that got like me was the mom had to basically feign that everything's normal at dinner parties and with people, and just seeing her deteriorate into her own madness
and just desperation.
Yeah.
Like,
I think there was so much hurt there. I think that my reaction was like I needed joy in that moment. But
That's fair.
I can see how like the thought of the possession, like you would think almost like it just keeps rolling over you and you can't break from it.
I think there was like a mystery. Like you could be a good person
right,
and still get possessed, right? Like, and
Right.
it could just happen to you.
Yep.
There's not even necessarily a specific trigger. Like, and sometimes if you do something naughty or something like that, you'd be like,
well,
I'm in trouble.
and one of the scenes that had gotten put back in was Father Karras asking the older priest why this little girl, and he's like, well, the point is to make us despair. It's not about her, it's about making us think, oh wow, God must not love us because we are a gross whatever mess. And they cut that out originally, and the writer's like, we need that scene, that's so important.
Anybody else got any other ones before we break to the next segment?
I have one tiny one.
Let's hear it.
So when Matchbox cars, I mean, they still exist, but
Sure.
I had one that was like a older one that was like a hand-me-down, and in the back seat of the car was like and sculpted in like the seats was a dog, and it's similar to the snow pig story. Because the dog didn't have features, it was just like the shape of a dog. The dog scared me because it was like in my head, it was this uncanny. It looks like a dog, but it's obviously not a dog. But it doesn't have a face, and it was like, whoa, what is this weird creature in the backseat?
And it's trapped in the car.
And it's trapped in the car.
That makes sense. So Jay, I hear you got something for us.
I do. Kind of existential dread.
Yeah.
So when I was always interested in space, like even at a very young age, and it would really bother me, like keep me up at night, thinking about like the idea of like space being infinite.
Sure.
Right? And like how is that possible? Like,
Which it still is.
Correct.
I mean,
right. And if it is contained in something, then like what's outside of that? Like all these, troubling questions to me. And I had a poster on my wall of the solar system. The sun's on the left, and then the planets are, trailing off to the right.
Sure.
And I don't think it was in my classroom. I was probably like in 3rd grade. But I remember seeing a classroom, and they had, a model of the solar system up in their room, and like the sun's like on the side of the classroom, and then all the planets trail off in front of it. So then that made me start to wonder, like, what's behind the sun? Like, I didn't realize that the planets orbited the sun, because I'm seeing all these representations of it. Like, the sun is this giant flaming wall on one side, and all the other planets trail off. And it really bothered me and freaked me out.
Yeah,
It's
I
like-
get that. That would
It's like
creep me out too.
the source wall in the DC universe.
Right.
And my other one is, I was thinking of things that creeped me out and probably weren't honestly creepy, and I looked it up, and it's still legitimately frightening. We had, I think they were Reader's Digest books, and some of them were like mysteries of the world, like Bermuda Triangle and cryptozoology. And there was one of the books that had, and you can pull it up in my folder, I believe it was called Van Noy's Ape, or
Gary's reaction was amazing.
And there was a picture in the book of this horrific supposed cryptid that these explorers found. And I remember paging through this giant Reader's Digest book and seeing this thing, and for some reason in my mind,
Oh, please share.
Yeah, that's creepy, man.
Oh.
What the
Oh, yeah.
hell?
Right?
so
I don't blame you.
I was convinced that was outside, like
Well,
at my
sure.
house. Like I didn't want to go outside.
And you have woods
For
behind
everyone
your
listening,
town.
we'll throw
And a
this
river.
out in the
I lived on the river.
social media feed, so you
Oh,
all
in the
can come
country.
see this, because you guys gotta see this.
Well, I
This is
think
insane.
yeah, like the mouth looks almost like
It is
definitely like an aqua thing.
I'm gonna need
Yeah.
Like I got in trouble because I was supposed to go out and do chores, and I didn't want to leave the house.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
And sometimes with those, I think a lot of times what makes those creepier is the idea that, like, sometimes the cheaper the footage or the picture looks, the more real it seems, because it's like, like that old Bigfoot footage. That's always terrifying because it's like, well, it looks so cheap. How could they have faked it? When it's like, that's kind of I've recently been watching videos about what they call analog horror, where it's like in the early 2000s to like mid, people would use that kind of concept of like, if it looks like it's on a VHS tape, it looks more real, even if it looks cheap, because the idea that like a high quality special effect would look real, and this looks almost fake, or like some of the like Slender Man videos. And it's just as simple as the door opens and there's just someone in the background really quick. And it's like, oh, that's terrifying. But it's on this old analog video. Ugh. So like that picture being black and white and kind of grainy, it like makes it look more real.
And of course, it's just across the river from your house, obviously.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Side note of just something that I think is very interesting, part of history, when explorers who went out to Australia came back with a stuffed, because they couldn't keep it alive, stuffed platypus to like England. They thought it was something that they made up.
Yeah.
They're like,
Right,
no,
right.
you just cobbled that together. There's no beaver with a duck bill.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Now with that, I think we should break and then go into our next segment. All right.
For the final part of our pod, we have a segment where we all share something that has been on our mind, and we're calling it the Biscuit Basket.
That's right. Either we have a buttered biscuit, something good, or a burned biscuit, and that's something bad.
Now, in this first one, we didn't really know what to call it, so you'll hear us talking about rants. But just know that this is a biscuit basket.
Please enjoy.
And we're back. But I'm going to kick this party off, and I'm going to go off of my little rant for today. I get so freaking frustrated with some sort of game or something you play where it's all based on luck. And I'm thinking specifically of Pokemon Go. I was about to get a fucking Lugia, right? And I had all excellent throws, or mostly excellent throws. It was used in rare candy. It had, not rare candy. I'm frustrated, so I'm not thinking right. But I was using the raspberries. It's like
Golden raspberry?
exactly a golden raspberry on every throw, getting excellence and greats, and then nothing. And it's like there's got to be something to reward strategy, and if there's not, it just pisses me off. Because like even poker is 100% luck, but then you got bluffing, and you can play the game. But it's just as much as I love the game, it drives me crazy that there's little things like you can work your ass off, but it'll just give you the middle finger sometimes, and there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it.
I'm having flashbacks to Jay and I playing Mortal Kombat 2 in my basement and getting very upset that we get all the way to the second to last guy and then could not win at all. It was like, this game hates us!
Right? I love, though, like
Rigged.
like now and other kids, like they'll say like, oh, that guy's cheating, he's hacking. But like when we were younger, it was like, the computer's cheating! The computer's cheating! It's trying to get just that whole different dynamic.
Right.
But yeah.
When you first started talking about that, I thought of a cousin of mine who gets very upset. And like his is not legitimate like yours. His is completely sour grapes of like, we played a card game and he didn't get a good hand. It's
Right.
like, this game is purely based on luck. It's just like whatever cards you get. Like, yeah, that's how cards are played, buddy.
Right. Right, but based on the poker players, it's how you deal with the hand that you were dealt. But
We play a game a lot in my family called Five Crowns, and it's a lot like Rummy, but it's a little different. And you get progressively more cards as the game goes on. So the first hand is you get 3 cards. Sometimes you can go down with the 3 cards you're dealt, and it's like, oh, cool, just lay down. And people will be like, well, that's not fair. Well, how is it not fair?
right.
But there are people in the family that when we're playing with, I will sometimes like, oh, I could totally go down, and I'll wait a few rounds because I don't want them to
Right.
be mad at me. So I'll just sit there like, I could go down right now.
But to bring it back to like Pokemon Go, I get that at the end of the day, it's just a game. But if somebody were to say, well, it's just a game, it's like, I put hours into this to
Right.
level up my guys so I can go in and defeat them as fast as I can. So then when the game just gives you a big old lump of shit like that,
Right.
it just really kills you. Like if I were like, oh, those are bad throws, that's on me, I can deal with that.
Right.
But when it's just luck.
Is this like a post raid?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. So we
yes.
did a Lugia raid, and I had 16 balls to catch him, and I'm giving out the
Yep.
golden Raz
That is
like
literally
it's
the worst.
just cocaine at an 80s party, and
Or a couple years ago.
or a couple of years ago. But yeah, didn't get him.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my rant. All right. Who else would like to share with the group?
I have one.
Let's hear it.
This happened to my son this week at school. He came home and he was a little, I don't know, I think he saw the humor in it, but I was somewhere between raging mama bear and I need to just calm the you-know-what down because he's 15. He can handle the situation. But one of his friends at school took his school laptop with all of his personal information on it and signed him up for the military.
Oh.
Right? Just
That's-
signed him up into the army. So he's been getting calls from, recruiters and everything.
That kid should be arrested.
Right? And I'm like, I just need to calm down.
No,
But-
no, you
I
don't.
disagree.
I'm actually
That's
gonna
not
I'm gonna get on your side
Get on the rage
Right?
train with
because
that one.
that's that's almost like some sort of like
Fraud.
federal fraud thing,
Yeah.
right?
He's like, well, he was just trying to be funny. I'm like, that is not funny.
No. Funny is like signing someone up for like the Mormons to come to your door.
yeah,
Right?
Even that's scary sometimes.
Or like a weird magazine.
Or
come your
to
house.
get like
Yeah.
feminine hygiene products delivered to their house.
Yeah.
Or like when Carl goes to the bathroom at a concert and you take his phone and you take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you look at all those yet?
I did.
They were nice.
I'm really proud of Amanda on these ones. I mean, we all share humor, but
Right.
Sometimes the unexpected is the funniest part.
Sure.
So I think what we're trying to say is Mama Bear's justified.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very.
I would say, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think like the kid needs to go to the brig or anything, but
No,
something
but-
should happen because
Well,
that's really inappropriate.
What a good lesson for your teenager too, to understand their boundaries and stuff that they wouldn't want to have happen to them in the future, nor do to others. I mean,
Right.
I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, even if it's just a conversation with the principal of, hey, you just wasted the time of some dude who works for the military calling somebody that's a
Right.
false lead.
And by the end of the day, like, was showing me, like, all of his emails that he got, the phone calls. Like, they were, like, Johnny on the spot. Like, yeah, about joining the Army. But, so that's my rant for the week.
That's a good one. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right.
Mine is much less serious, but it's something that gets on my nerves. So, in the world of the DC universe, in the movies, there's, now that James Gunn is taking over, after the Flash movie, we're getting like a soft reboot. And I say soft because they're not dumping everything of the continuity, but some things are going to be different. Like, we're going to have a different Superman. Now, for me, as a comic book reader, this is not a big deal because this is what they do in the comic books all the time, where it's like this time-altering event happened. Now, going forward, the background of these characters might be a little different, but it'll just happen as it comes up. That's kind of how I'm seeing this movie universe happening. So it's like the events that already happened did happen, but they might have happened a little differently. The reason I'm ranting is because so many people aren't going to see Shazam 2, and they aren't going to see The Flash, and they aren't going to see the second Aquaman because none of that stuff will matter when the new universe takes over. When did we stop going to movies just for that individual movie? Like, when people still went to see Dark Knight Rises, even though it's not going to lead into anything else, it was just the end of the story. I saw Shazam 2 and I thought it was really good, and the idea that it's not leading into the proper universe, we don't know that. There could be a third one
Right.
after the soft
I've
reboot
yet
and
to see
everything.
Shazam 2, but I really do want to see it.
It was,
I want to see.
I,
Wants to go with you, by the way.
I took myself last weekend, and I've kind of tried to take myself to more movies by myself, just for the fun of being alone in the theater. But I'm getting annoyed that like we've been spoiled with this connected universe of movies in all sorts of different genres that now people can't just go see a movie because the movie itself exists. It's like, if it doesn't have a payoff in this greater universe, it's not worthy of seeing. And I think
That's odd.
that's not how I enjoy
right.
movies.
The whole crescendo with the Marvel Cinematic Universe was amazing with how they did that, but at the same time, it can't all be that.
I think it's kind of the culture we're living in right now, honestly. Think of all of the series that have been turned into these films, and then more series come out. We got, The Lord of the Rings, right? And
Even
then
Harry Potter.
Hunger Games, 50 Shades of Grey.
Ooh.
Like, these are all series that are purposely extended to make another movie.
The Hobbit.
Well, right, but like The Hobbit and stuff, that all exists in one universe. And I mean, that's a little different because there is like the prequel series right now and everything. But like that, like Shazam 2 is not as worthy because it won't connect to the future DC universe, even though it probably still will. But why wouldn't you just go see it because it's a sequel to the first one if you liked that one? It doesn't.
Right.
As much as the movies are all supposed to be connected, they're also supposed to be individual adventures that can just be taken on their own, and it's just kind of like, come on.
Yeah.
I think it's not so much that I just hate the idea that people aren't going to it because someone else says, well, it doesn't count. Well, it still counts because it exists. Like, go see it.
Boom, roasted.
Roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp. What's your rant, Carl?
You can have a positive too.
You can be a joy.
I think mine's kind of like in a middle zone. I don't think maybe it's a little angsty, but it's joyful also. Over the past 6-7 months, I've been going through like my mental health, which is all great and up, and I've been focusing just on a lot of wellness, and I've gotten to the point this week where I'm thinking about the future, and to a certain extent professional, but also very personal. And I posted on social media about the books that I've been working through, and I think it's interesting because this is the most I've read since college as an adult, which is in one way great, in one way also disappointing, but it's okay. Like, I can be okay with that past. And that's kind of actually the story of the Rising Up book that I was reading, was about working through grief, working through frustration, identifying boundaries, understanding expectations, in the sense of what do you expect down the road. I guess it kind of leans into that movie thing. Like, so should I not live for today and do the best I can today because there's no guarantee that tomorrow is going to be awesome? I think that for me right now, I'm on this journey, and I'm having good moments, and I'm stringing them together, like I said, in my professional and personal life. But I'd say on the professional side of things, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that I'm going to achieve a position or a monetary salary that's going to compensate me for this growth. On the personal side, I think it's what I need, because I think that an important part of me is being a leader, whether it be in a community setting, whether a group setting like this. But it makes me a better friend. And I love that. I mean, I had a great experience with my friends this last week, and we just had a game night at a cabin by a lake. And we were snowed in, and we had great talks about their families and their professional lives. And it was just great because I got to be that sounding board. I got to give advice. I got to be reflective. And as Amanda and I talk a lot about, just literally that idea of filling your cup. Like, what fulfills you? And for all of us, I think everyone at this table, there's so many different things that fill us all up. So I guess for me, I just want to say that all that we're putting in that cup, enjoy it, because we don't know what is down the road, but we definitely have right now, and we wouldn't want to limit ourselves, because just like the scary universe, Jay, it is infinite.
I like it.
Mine's not going to be like super in depth or anything, but
I don't think anybody can top Carl's depth.
I've topped Carl many times.
Well, that's the next episode.
Weird bathroom stuff and sex.
I honestly, yeah. That's what I envisioned for Wicker Biscuit, right?
Some days it's gonna be really rated G, and I'll be like, "What is that?" They were just talking about the freaky stuff.
Yeah. It's going to get really weird when we do, like, the baking episodes and then transition right into the bathroom stuff. You're like, what? You don't do that in the bathroom? But, you know. All right. I apologize for cutting you off.
There's the setup.
I love the randomness of it. I am having kind of I am in my final step of my degree. Mm-hmm. And I am doing the last things of that. And it feels like it's been forever. And very short all at the same time. So I entered my last placement, and I'm enjoying getting to know the new place, and I'm very excited. So I'm very happy, and I'm actually really jazzed about this. I'm not sure if Ryan has told you or not, but I've told him many times that we should have a podcast. So I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, this is a whole thing of just fulfilling lots of dreams. I mean, I plan on going lots of places with this. Like Courtney's bedroom.
I just want you all to know that while Tiffany was talking, I put on one of her shoes.
Scandalous. I love it. All right. Well, any closing things you guys want to throw out there?
Off the record, I am terrible at names, but for some reason, the only name that I can remember at this table is the name that I should not say.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You mean Jay?
Yes. Mysterious J.
He's a man of mystery, and that's why we keep him around.
Yep.
He used to be international, but now he's local.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, that face in the Honeymooners, that got me. Oh, my God. Because you're totally right. Yeah. That's creepy.
And it just, the shift from Saturday Night Live and, you know, they're all out on stage and everybody's, you know, clapping and
I was up
happy
that
and everything.
late as a kid, too. Because, I mean, it's a weekend. Nobody cared. And I was obsessed with stay up to watch Johnny Carson as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that was like a naughty treat,
And also,
you know?
for some reason, when I was really little, I thought Johnny Carson was, like, filmed in Eau Claire. Like,
Me too. Me too.
Out by the drive-in theater.
Because of the TV-13. Because of the TV-13 studio, I thought everything on NBC was filmed in Eau Claire in that building. Golden Girls, Cosby Show, all that stuff is like, yeah, in the NBC building.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. All right.
We did it.
Well, thanks for everybody for joining. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
That was a great first biscuit.
It's delicious.
Thank you for listening to Wicker Biscuit, a Podcast Ahoy production. The executive producers of Wicker Biscuit are Ryan LeMay, Gary Putnam, and Courtney Hollum. Recording and editing was done by Gary Putnam. Check out our social media for updates on upcoming pods and for clips and other media referenced in this episode. Because sharing is caring, the links can be found in the episode note. Check it out. This episode contained audio clips of the song Puttin' on the Ritz, written by Irving Berlin and performed by Taco. Please support these other artists and check out their work. Thanks again from everyone at the Wicker Biscuit family.